So a very, very big welcome to everyone. And as many people know, I just returned from a month-long retreat with my meditation teacher, Beth Upton. It was in Austin, Texas, at a Burmese monastery. And it was wonderful to be in a monastery for this retreat. And there were about 45 participants, this awesome retreat in Austin. And I wanted to share a little bit. If I had to pick a theme of this retreat, because there wasn't really, but I mean, then there was, or organically, I would I would say it was wise attention. This is something that got talked about over and over and over again. Wise attention. And in the suttas, the Buddha talks about wise attention. It pretty much is the linchpin. I mean, you can say that about so many aspects of the Buddha's teachings, of the Dhamma. But I really think you can make a case for wise attention, that it's a absolute game changer. It's an absolute choice point. Um, if we're paying wise attention or unwise attention. So many times in the suttas. In the numerical discourses and Guttara 167, and he starts with the bad news in 66 and talks about unwise attention, but I'm not gonna go there. Uh, the one about wise attention is meditators, practitioners. I do not see even a single thing that so causes unarisen, wholesome mind states to arise, and arisen, unwholesome mind states to decline as wise attention. It, uh, it, it really is the gateway and the jumping off point. And one morning, Beth reads a sutta each morning, kind of just to set the tone and give some inspiration and direction for the day. And one morning she read this sutta. It's well known. Many of us have heard it. It gets referred to often, but she said something about it that I was like, oh, it was very exciting to me. So it's quite long, but we really have to kind of hear the whole thing to understand. So this is in the Connected Discourses, the Samyutta Nikaya, book 36, Sutta number 6. And it's Bhikkhu Bodhi translates it as the dart, and Bhante Sujato translates it as the arrow. I'm reading Bhante Sujato's translation. When an unlearned ordinary person experiences painful physical feelings, and this applies for painful emotional, psychological, personal, when we experience painful feelings, they sorrow and wail and lament, beating their breast and falling into confusion. They experience two feelings. The first feeling, this physical or anything, and then the response, the mental. They experience two feelings, physical and mental. It's like a person who's struck with an arrow, only to be struck with a second arrow. That person experiences the feeling of two arrows. In the same way, when an unlearned ordinary person experiences painful feelings, they sorrow and wail and lament, beating their breast and falling into confusion. They experience two feelings, physical and mental. When they're touched by painful feeling, they resist it. This is one of the three unwholesome roots, our ill will. When they're touched by painful feeling, they resist it. The underlying tendency for aversion towards painful feeling underlies that. When touched by painful feeling, they look forward to enjoying sensual pleasures. Why is that? And this is the most important sentence. Because an unlearned, ordinary person doesn't understand any escape from painful feeling apart from something pleasant, apart from sensual pleasures. Since they look forward to enjoying sensual pleasures, the underlying tendency to greed for pleasant feeling underlies that. The second of the three unwholesome roots. Aversion, greed, and then thirdly, they don't truly understand feelings, origin, ending, gratification, drawback, and escape. The underlying tendency to ignorance, to delusion about neutral feeling underlies that. So the three unwholesome roots are just expressed and then this feedback loop of reinforced uh, through painful feeling, through difficult experiences. They're called an unlearned ordinary person who's attached to rebirth, old age, and death, to sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress, who's attached to suffering, I say, says the Buddha. When a learned, noble disciple experiences painful physical feelings, they don't sorrow or wail or lament, beating their breast and falling into confusion. They experience one feeling, physical, not mental. That first painful feeling. It's like a person who's struck with an arrow, but was not struck with a second arrow. That person would experience the feeling of one arrow. In the same way, when a learned noble disciple experiences painful physical feelings, they don't sorrow or wail or lament, beating their breast and falling into confusion. They experience one feeling, physical, not mental. When they're touched by painful feeling, they don't resist it. There's no underlying tendency for aversion towards painful feelings underlying that. When touched by painful feeling, they don't look forward to enjoying sensual pleasures. Why is that? Most important sentence. Because a learned noble disciple understands an escape from painful feeling apart from sensual pleasures. Since they don't look forward to enjoying sensual pleasures, there is no underlying tendency to greed for pleasant feeling underlying that. They truly understand feelings' origin, ending, gratification, drawback, and escape. There's no underlying tendency to ignorance about neutral feeling underlying that. If they feel a pleasant feeling, they feel it with clarity detached. If they feel a painful feeling, they feel it with clarity detached. If they feel a neutral feeling, they feel it with clarity detached. They're called a learned noble disciple who's detached from rebirth, old age, and death, from sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress, who's detached from suffering, I say. This is the difference between a learned noble disciple and an unlearned ordinary person. And this sentence about when an unlearned an unlearned ordinary person, normal, um, experiences a painful feeling, they're 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 resisting it and they're yearning for a relief, something pleasant, and that they're looking to all they know, which is some pleasant sense contact. Just make this go away, make this feel better. I want to feel better. And they don't know any other escape. And so the real escape is nibbana. And short of that, it's having access to very deep meditation, the jhanas. And short of that, what's available to all of us, to everyone, and this is what Beth shared, and I was like, oh my goodness, yeah. Short of that, there is an escape available to us all right now, no matter where we're at in our Dhamma practice, no matter where we're at. in our meditation, in our spiritual path. And that is this wise attention. And if we really take this on board, this is a game changer. It means when I am experiencing something difficult, be it the smallest little thing to something could a terrible trauma, a terrible catastrophe in our lives, I can bring wise attention and there's an escape. It might take a long time, but we don't just need to, we're not a victim of our lives. We're not a victim of our experiences. We're not a victim of our minds and bodies. If we bring wise attention to whatever is happening in our lives, we are doing the only thing that we can actually to increase our wisdom, our patience, our endurance, everything happens there. And we will never experience deep meditation unless we learn this this skill of bringing wise attention to whatever is there. Wise attention is a beautiful attention, and we get it wrong. We get everything wrong. Get everything, that so many of the suttas end with, oh, thank you, Master Gotama, magnificent. You've turned upright that which was upside down. We're not like a little bit off, We're backwards. We get it absolutely wrong. And we don't understand the way things are, and we don't understand how things work, and we don't understand the order of things. And we think I'll be able to bring beautiful attention when I'm paying attention to is beautiful. And it doesn't work like that. I mean, then now we're hooped. Now we're like dependent on things being beautiful, and they're not always beautiful. But if I bring beautiful attention, doesn't matter what I'm attending to. It becomes beautiful. I bring the beauty. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Such a powerful Dhammic saying. This wise attention. And I'm going to do a little segue, uh, and I need to set it up. So there's in Theravada Buddhism, there's the Tipitaka. It's the three baskets of the Buddha's teachings. And they are the suttas, the discourses. And this is what we read from all the time. And then there's two other baskets. One is the Vinaya. This is the monastic code. This is the discipline for people that are fully ordained. And there's a lot of Dhamma in it. That when you read parts of the Vinaya, it sounds very much like the suttas. And then there's a third basket. And so I read from the suttas all the time. I've read from the Vinaya a couple of times here. And then there's a third basket that's called the Abhidhamma. And this basket of late has become more controversial because there's quite a movement within Theravada circles. Now it's called like the early Buddhist texts. And so the Abhidhamma does not classify. It's not an early Buddhist text. And there many scholars place it about 150 years after the Buddha had passed away. And what the Abhidhamma is it's huge and it's very technical. It's sort of a systemization of the doctrine of what the Buddha laid out. But I want to dip into it today because there's something in the Abhidhamma that I think is very, very useful. And I think uh, I can make a case for it being directly from the Buddha. I don't see any conflict. And so this aspect of the Abhidhamma is talking about when there is a wholesome mind state, that there's this collection of mental factors that are there and that they co-arise. And stick with me. I'm hoping it'll become really useful and you'll get some buy-in. So these 14 mental factors, if one is there, and it's there in a wholesome mind state, all of them are there to lesser and greater degrees. They co-arise, they come together. They're holding hands and they all come to the party together. If you invite one, you get them all, which is a bonus for us. Where I think this is very useful is two things. I think, first of all, it becomes a little bit more specific and precise. What is wholesome? And I think that's useful for us. I mean, many of us know lots about wholesome mind states, but this is I think this is helpful. And then the second reason I think it's very useful is that it increases our our knowledge and our agility in cultivating wholesome mind states on and off the cushion. So these 14 mental factors that co-arise according to the Abhidhamma, they are, and please don't worry. I mean, I'll say them, but then I'm going to talk about them for weeks because I'm really excited about this and it's helped me. Uh, so they are faith, mindfulness, and then I'm going to stay in Pali, Hiri Ottappa. That these are two mental factors that really describe our conscience. And the Hiri is the part of our conscience that is like, oof, you know, I could have done, I wasn't very patient, or oof, that probably was, I didn't need to share that. Like I felt my motivation wasn't clean. That's Hiri. And Ottappa is the part of our conscience that's forward, keeping us a- ahead of time. Like I don't need to say that, or oh my gosh, I need to stay patient. That's Hiri and Ottappa, our conscience, faith, mindfulness, Hiri, Ottappa, and then non-greed and non-ill will. Huge part, huge, of wholesome mind states. And along with this non-ill will, metta comes in. And then a balanced mind, verging on upekkha, balance and tranquil. And then three qualities of mind that we've never really talked about, and that is a lightness and a softness and a flexibility. Lightness, softness, flexibility. And then two more, the mind being upright, and then the last one, proficiency. And it's true, the more that we spend time in wholesome mind states, we can feel this proficiency, we can feel this confidence about what we're doing, how we're living, a proficiency. So today, I'd like to talk about the first couple, mindfulness and faith. And what I want to say about mindfulness is not much. The Pali word sati, and it actually is memory. And yet, like the way that the Dhamma came to North America, Europe and North America, um, there's been a lot of talk about mindfulness. It gets lots and lots of airtime. And it's interesting when people talk about mindfulness, you can see this sort of like sati is memory. And then they flesh out, they talk about all these other aspects of mind, all these other aspects of mindfulness, like it's like this non-judgmental, accepting awareness. The reason is because they're actually describing a bunch of these other mental factors. Because when mindfulness is truly there, it's got this flavor of all these other mental factors, these beautiful mental factors that co-arise. And when they get into talking about the non-judgmental awareness, they're segueing into the non-aversion, non-ill will, the metta, the tranquility, the acceptance. So when you when you look at these 14 mental factors, the function that mindfulness is playing is memory. It's remembering. It's remembering to follow the instructions that it's being given. It's remembering to be with the meditation object if you're sitting in meditation. It's remembering what you're doing. It functions as memory in this cluster of 14 beautiful mental factors that are co-arising. Which brings us, I told you I wasn't going to talk very much about it, which brings us to faith. And there's so much that could be said about faith. When the Buddha, in one of the Buddha's teachings in the connected discourses in the book of 12s about causation, Sutta 23, very, very often quoted and well-known sutta, the Buddha goes through dependent origination and then transcendent origination, the sequence of cause and effect that leads us to liberation, leads us to nibbana. And it starts with faith. And faith is absolutely best friends with right view. And faith and right view overlap. And the Buddha says that the proximate cause for faith to arise is suffering. And it's true, we can all relate to that in our lives. Little suffering or really, really big suffering. And there's another sutta where the Buddha talks about if faith isn't what arises, there's two other things that happen to the uninstructed, the unlearned, ordinary, I said normal. I think that's a Freudian slip, that the ordinary person, and we can relate to this in our lives as well. The unproductive response to faith is that either we get overwhelmed, perplexed, and we see this all around, like, I can't believe this is happening, or can't believe this happened to me, or why? We get confused and perplexed. The second unproductive response to suffering in our lives is we start to look outside. The Buddha says, we go on a search. The Buddha even gives this illustration. We literally go up to someone and say, can you give me a mantra? Like, can you give me like a fix? Like, can you fix this? And we see this so much in our culture. I mean, the whole worship of celebrities and the whole like superhero. We want, in romance, like we want someone make me feel better. And neither of these are productive. But there is a chance when we're suffering that we do something productive and we go on a noble search, that the suttas call it, a noble search. And we begin to have faith. And I propose that, faith, like, I propose that every single person has faith in something. Like, there's no way to be alive without your faith is in something. Um, I'll give you an example. My son, I mean, he would cringe, but they never listen to these things. I mean, I don't think they even know that I do this. Um, he's a scientist, and his faith is in science. It really, truly is. Like, if we get into having very, very serious discussions, this is his go-to. His faith is in science. So even the most scientific person that thinks of themselves as not having faith, they actually do. They have faith in science. You can know what your faith is in by looking at your life and looking at where are you invested? Where do you spend your time? Where do you spend your money? Where 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 are your dreams? What are your dreams? This will tell you what your faith is in. Is it in uh, the this is harder and harder to put your faith in. Is it in the ecology movement? Is it in uh, your bucket list and great experiences? Is it in your partner? Is it in your career? Is it in your bank account and your stuff? What is your faith in? And when we come to the Buddha's teachings, the the mundane right view, the initial right view, the is to really, really take as a working hypothesis for your life, to really, really take on board that when I plant good seeds, when I do good things, when I cultivate beautiful mind states, it will have a beautiful result. If you just really open your heart and ponder that and start to take risks, like, okay, that's, I'm gonna, I'm gonna, I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna build on that. This is right view, and it's faith. It's faith in what the Buddha said. And the Buddha, I I want to encourage everyone to put a lot of faith in the Buddha. The Buddha was adamantly confident that this is the way it is. And this is based on his own personal experience and realizations. This is what he saw on the night of his awakening, that beings, everything, so much of what's going on, our birth, our death, our birth, our death, and the quality of that birth, the quality of everything is based on karma. It's based on the seeds that we've planted. Yeah, when we do start to take up a spiritual practice and put more and more trust in this operating principle of the cosmos, that beautiful, beautiful seeds, beautiful intentions, beautiful mind states, beautiful generosity, beauty has a beautiful result. And that the opposite is true. When we really, really start to take that on board and start to meditate and start to look inside, sometimes we will become aware of an undercurrent of core beliefs that we've picked up somewhere along the way that are very, very harmful and hurtful to ourselves. Beliefs like, I'm unlovable, like at some deep core, or I don't belong, I'm not worthy, things won't actually work out for me. Many of us live with these. They're below the surface. We don't even know it, but they're in there. And this is the wonderful thing of the Buddha's teachings, as it's a balm, it's medicine for these deep, deep wounds that so many of us in this performance-oriented, disconnected, silo, materialistic culture that we've been brought up in. Many of us with parents that returned from, well, no, sorry, that's my age, from World War II, like a lot of pain, undigested. And the Buddhist teachings are medicine, and they will heal the deepest yearnings of the human heart. But it does take faith. And it really, it's very simple what your faith is in. Your faith is in that goodness is something that I can invest in. Goodness is something that I can trust. When I was a seminary at Sati Sernia Hermitage with Ayya Ahimsa, we were in Perth, outside of Ottawa in Ontario, and we would go to the farmers market. And I remember standing there for alms one day, and this woman came up and asked if we believed in God. And Ayya Ahimsa was so skillful in these conversations. And she said, like, technically, you as a Buddhist, you'd say no, but really, yes, we believe in goodness. We believe in goodness. And had a lovely conversation with this deeply Christian woman and bridged a gap. Yes, we believe in goodness. This is something that is absolutely, it's the only thing worth our faith. And when we cultivate faith, this is something that we can tap into when we're meditating, even, is that, and it's essential, actually, if you're meditating and you're at any kind of a threshold point in your meditation. This is when you actually need to be leading with faith. You trust goodness, trust the Buddha's teachings. This is what, because the whole path into deeper meditation is a path of trust. It's a path of surrender and relinquishment and letting go. And the way, yoga people know this. You can't, the body, the nervous system can't let go until they know there's some kind of support. And the support is this, that what the Buddha said is true. And you can feel even the mind, that this opening. The openings come through faith, through relaxing and surrender. And invariably, you're coming to a place that's unfamiliar, and it doesn't happen all at once. So the way that you're able to pass that threshold is just through familiarity. You come to that place again in your meditation, and then again, and every time you can just surrender ever so slightly more. But faith in goodness. I'll end today with a story I love to tell, and that's about uh, someone that uh, his name's Robert, and he's a retired teacher, and he was on the board at the monastery where I lived in California, a local Vihara forest monastery, for years and years and years. And I believe he's still on the board with Ayya Ananda Bodhi at Parayana Monastery in Port Townsend. And at a local vihara, we had 17 acres and we had a forest. And it came time to, oh, we're going to build our very first kuti, our very first outbuilding meditation cabin. And Robert stepped forward and said, I want to build it. And he was 69 at the time and turned 70 while he was building it. It was during COVID. And so he brought a trailer from his home and lived there for 4 months and built this kuti. And it was, sorry, I have to say it was the perfect kuti. I mean, there's nothing perfect in samsara, but this gave that sentence a run for its money. And it was a labor of love. He worked so hard on that kuti. It was beautiful. And we'd even done the clay paint, it was beautiful. And the view was amazing. And the Caldor fire came and burnt most of the property of Alokavihara Forest Monastery, including that kuti, burnt to the ground. And I remember we were evacuated for 3 weeks, and I remember returning, and I had helped probably more than the other nuns. That was kind of my role. And so I was the one, that walked first to the location and came around, and you just knew in your heart. It came around the corner, and sure enough, no kuti, just horrible debris on the ground that took us maybe a month to clean up, and so difficult, like these heavy bags, truckload after truckload, taking it to the dump. So we called Robert as a community on a group call, and told him, you know, yeah, we had that kuti for 8 months, and then it burnt to the ground. But on that call, it was so not heavy because the beauty of his offering was not burnt. You can't burn. You can't burn these beautiful mental factors. They're the only thing that we have. And the Buddha says that we're the owners of our karma. And this is all that we have on our deathbed. And this is all that we take. What have we done with our life force, with our mind? So we can cultivate a beautiful mind. And the more faith we have in the truth of this, the more we will invest in cultivating a beautiful mind. So I'll end there.